forget, though. Okay, there we go. Hi. As we wait for the little ding. Hi, everyone. Welcome to...
I missed the countdown. I missed when we could do 3.
It didn't give me a countdown. It didn't give me a countdown. It was just like going on. Okay. Hi. Welcome to Curious Endeavourances Book Club, where we read anything and everything. If you've not seen us before,
where have you been the last 2 years?
Yeah. Go back to number 1, watch that, and then come back. We have a book club, which we run through Goodreads. There's a discussion, there's all the books we have read, all the videos we've done, yada, yada, yada. The link will be below. So you can go look, you can join, you can talk, you can whatever. And we pick a different book every month, read it, and at the end of the month, usually the last Saturday, we get together and talk about it. Sometimes we write reviews and put that on a website, which might also be below at some point. And yeah.
I love how we got less sure. We might do this. It might exist somewhere. We're becoming more realistic.
If you go to the Goodreads, there are links on that. Or there will be if I haven't yet put them up. I'll put them up.
It's like the HQ. That's the best place to go.
Yeah. Goodreads is the the organization part. So I guess, okay, quick introductions before we tell you what book we were reading. We have Ashley Newell.
I'm the loud one. Hi. I'm the loud one.
Loud. With the dog.
Where is the dog?
I don't know. He usually makes.
He's outside. He's on the porch. I don't know what I'm going to do when winter comes.
Yeah. Julianne Wilson.
Hi. I guess comparatively, I'm the quiet one.
And I am the moderator, Caitlin Perry.
Funny how that works.
Is it because I'm too busy doing links and stuff? My name is Caitlin Perry.
You didn't explain to your husband that it works with what we publish as?
I did, like 8 months ago.
That's okay.
For all intents and purposes, that is my name. That I publish under. And all the other stuff. Yeah, I moderate because I'm always the one that's, busy looking at other things.
It's all attached to your account, so basically everything depends on whether you push the button at the right time or not.
That also means that if something comes up, I'm the one who's like, you keep talking, I have the things to look at and fix, and I don't know what's going on, because I don't actually really know anything about technology, so it's perfect.
But it's a lot less complex by the looks of it now that you're in Stockholm, because you used to have the phone going to follow all the feeds, and it's like all the screens all the time. Now it's like, if people are commenting, well, someone will see it. Now I've got all the tabs up.
Yeah, the tabs are all behind me.
Someone will say something at some point.
Or not, whatevs. We'll talk. We'll be the ones talking.
We read books.
Yeah, see, we're book people. So this month was Ashley's pick, so if you want to... I don't have the page open.
That's okay. So my pick is The Apprentice's Masterpiece by Melanie Little. I picked this one because it sparked my interest when I was looking for local authors and teachable text to bring in the classroom to inspire students that not everything happens in the big powerhouses of the US and the UK. So at some point, Melanie Little did live in Calgary. She was a writer in residence at the university here, so very local. I don't know if she's still in Calgary. It says so in the book, but I think when I was on her Goodreads page, she's in Ontario. I'll have to double check that. I might be telling lies. I have no idea. Anyway, so this was a very unique piece. All I knew about it is it's about the Spanish Inquisition, and it's written in verse. So just because it was something completely different, and, well, that's what we do at Curious Endeavourances, anything and everything, so always putting that to the test. And I've got the inside blurb right here, which I will read again and butcher the last name, even though I've been practicing the last name, and it's, I don't know, it's gonna get garbled somehow, because I'm brilliant like that. 15th century Spain is one of the most enlightened cultures on record, one in which Jews, Muslims, and Christians coexist within an atmosphere of respect. Then, the zealous Queen Isabella enacts policies that put an abrupt end to the peace. Violence, mistrust, and intolerance shadow everyone as the Spanish Inquisition takes shape. In this fear-filled atmosphere, 15-year-old scribe Ramon... I can do this! Benveniste? Is that right? Benveniste? I did practice, and then I'm on the,
I don't know why you're asking.
I'm on the camera. Sorry. Ramon Benveniste must hide the family secret. They are conversos, Jews converted to Christianity. I don't speak Spanish.
Sadly,
I can pull off Italian more than Spanish, which makes no sense.
And I almost answered you in Swedish, so there you go.
All the little bits and fragments of languages I speak, like
I know,
I have
right?
the most interesting conversations ever. One day, a young man is delivered to the door. Amir wears the robe and red patch of a Muslim. Soon, both Ramon and Amir are caught up in dramatic events they cannot escape. And the rest is just a review of something else.
You sounded like you were keep going, they cannot escape.
Because there's more, but then it's like,
yeah.
And this is how we think about the author, and I could, but I'm like, it's okay. We'll skip that part. Wow, that was like the most chopped up reading I've ever done.
That's Ashley's job.
Yeah. I feel like I deserve an award for how could you most butcher the back of a book? Yeah, tangents.
We're really good at tangents, though. That should be our, like, subtitle.
It's a superpower.
Yes.
Lady tangent.
I realized, okay, if my superpower is tangents, my kryptonite is small talk. Go figure.
Yes! Yes! Oh,
I've had to do so much small talk in the last 2 weeks. I left a function, and I was just like, I don't even know how I've been doing this for 2 weeks. This is, like, I can't.
Matt's had, like, this year of, like, making new pockets of friends, which is really, really good because we suck at that. So I get taken to these places and it's like, okay, people I don't know, and we're either talking about army stuff that I'm like,
I've had to go to a lot of things alone to go meet other expats, and
But Canadian expats, right? Or is it just generic?
Oh, it's all expats. A lot of them were Canadian the first thing I went to.
When it was still summer?
Yeah. And then the last one I went to, a lot of them were British slash Australian.
Huh. Well, you could still just... the Australians are easy. Just start talking about Big White.
Well, now you tell me.
Like, live on that mountain. It's amazing. Seriously, trying to find a Canadian on Big White is like trying to find a Scottish person in Edinburgh. It's just like, seriously, everywhere I went, they're all American. Like, servers at the restaurants are like very helpful, but it's just like, wow, I don't think I've met a Scottish person yet.
You're like, where am I?
I guess that's not true. The dude who dresses up as William Wallace. At least he better be Scottish, or I'm going to be very upset by that. Oh, he might be American too.
Oh. So in conclusion, we're really good at tangents.
As you can tell.
We read a book.
I feel like that's also our catchphrase because we keep coming back to that every time we tangent. But we read a book. FYI.
At some point, this did happen. Okay, since this one's my fault, I will steer it back. So, again, I didn't know very much about the book other than Spanish Inquisition and written in verse, and I didn't really know what that was going to look like. I didn't know if it was going to be giant epic poem style. That's kind of what I envisioned. Like I'd be reading some version of Spanish Inquisition Odyssey. And right before we started, and I think I said this in the last meeting when I was telling people there's not much to it, it's actually broken up into little tiny individual poems, which I wasn't expecting, and because I still hadn't read it yet, I'm like, this could either be interesting or really, really choppy. Choppier than how I read the back of the book. But I was personally fairly pleasantly surprised at how much it doesn't seem like a book of poems. So that's, I guess, my initial impression, which I never start with my initial impression, but anyway, to bring things back. You girls, what was your initial impression of The Apprentice masterpiece?
Yeah, I didn't feel like I was reading a bunch of poems because I mean, occasionally it got more poetic, but it felt like very, very short. Maybe like a diary. Like I wouldn't say chapters, but like little short entries instead of.
I feel like it helps that it was from the perspective of the characters.
Yeah.
So you get a diary sense.
Yeah, so that yeah, it felt like more like diary entries between like whoever's perspective it was. Like this. And I had mixed feelings because I would enjoy some parts a lot, and then there would be other parts where I just wasn't. I don't know how to say it without sounding awful.
Just weren't absorbed in it.
Yeah, I wasn't. I think that would be it. It wouldn't capture my attention as much, especially the middle section. I think it was maybe something about the style, because the style was different for the perspectives, I thought. And there was just something about the
different
way that,
character in the middle.
Yeah, so I felt like the way he talked, I was just like, oh my god. You'd be one of those teachers that's just like, meh, 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 meh. It's like, what you're telling me is very interesting, but the way you're telling me is just like, okay, get to the point. Or get to it in a different way, I guess.
Julia?
I was just not sure if Caitlin's done, but I'm gathering the glass of water as a cue that she did.
Oh, I'm also sick, so I have to. I've been losing my voice, so this is what's going to keep me.
I'm just getting mine back.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Mine is on the edge, but it seems fine today, so fingers crossed. I actually, once again, pleasantly surprised. I don't think I've ever read a book that was a set of individual poems before. I've read, obviously, the more epic poems that's literally just like one long poem. So, same as Ashley, I was kind of like, is this going to be like the Odyssey? Is this going to be like the Rape of the Lock? Like, what are we looking at here? And, yes, I love the Rape of the Lock, so I had to mention it.
Who doesn't?
But, yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised because I was worried as well about the disjointedness, being that it's a bunch of little teeny poems. And for the most part, that wasn't a problem. Here and there, it was, where it would skip kind of quite rapidly between, like, you'd have like a really short poem that kind of held the balance between two slightly longer ones, and there wasn't much explanation, but there was a lot of time gap between the two. But for the most part, I was pleasantly surprised. Did not feel like I was reading a book of poems. I felt like I was reading a book, which is really good. I do have to say, though, as a style, it's not my favorite, because I prefer a little bit more detail, and I don't feel like there's necessarily room for that in a narrative told in poems unless it was really long, which of course wasn't the case with this one. But I still quite enjoyed it. So.
Yeah. One of the questions that I posed, and I also do agree that there's a dramatic difference, which I guess as much as it threw me off because of how the poems do kind of blend together, so I felt like I was reading a continuous series of prose. Actually, my first read through, I stopped reading the poem headings and just kept reading. I tried to be more conscious of it as I went through my second read right before this week. But just because I was getting used to just blurring away the titles, even though there's a complete page difference, like it's a complete new heading. It says this is a new section, this is a new speaker. Where are you? I was going to show it, but maybe I won't be able to find it in time. Oh, I'm a completely different section. Never mind. If I find it, I do. If I don't, I don't. But I probably won't be able to find it. When it did get to a mirror section,
Yeah.
so we start with Ramon, and he's got such a distinct character. Like, I don't want to say I like him as a character. He's a rather selfish, naive 15-year-old boy. I mean, he does have the wisdom and experience for living in such a tense time period. Like, for how much fear and death he's surrounded by. I mean, he does have very grown-up moments, but I mean, there's still that childishness in him, especially on the hormonal level. And I think also for being as sheltered as he is, he's the only son of these scribes, and so he complains about it a lot, about spending so much time in the home. So I do think he has been babied quite a bit, which is one of Amir's complaints, being a slave. Not having that luxury of always having someone defend him and comfort him all the time. So just being so absorbed in Ramon's perspective. And I think for me personally, what helped with that was how he really does set the tone of what's going on. He doesn't dance around it. He's like, so these are the edicts. This is what it means. And this is what it means to my family because we're conversos. And I mean, he's still young in that there are things that he doesn't fully understand, but he's still in that stage of continuously questioning. So we get to have this unique perspective of not just taking things as is. For example, if we were to start with third section Ramon, where he's already working in the offices and performing these interrogations and right, it's horrifying. But because we get him in that moment of, I don't know, slight innocence. I don't want to say full innocence because I don't think he is, but just it definitely still has some of his childhood still with him, and we get that question, especially when he's questioning the religious implications. Right? What does that mean? We're supposed to be doing this and these practices, but there are so many bits of fine print, right? And kind of brings me back to Animal Farm, right? Some are more equal than others, right? And how it doesn't really matter what you do, you always seem to be in the wrong. Like, there's no winning. You try to do what they say is the right thing, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, like when they're trying to get everyone to come in and like confess to something, it's like if you don't come in and confess, clearly you're just not.
You're hiding something.
Yeah, clearly you're hiding something, so you have to come confess to something so they don't think that you're hiding something, even if you've not actually done anything wrong.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was saying, come up with something minor to confess.
And that's what they were doing, right? They're like, oh, I went to the wedding of a Jewish person 15 years ago. It's like, oh.
I wasn't Jewish. It's just that they were.
Yes, at some point I attended this wedding.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes it so much easier to follow Ramon's part of the story, or at least his narrative style, because he opens up with all these questions and all these wonderings, and so that really makes it accessible for you. And then you get to Amir, and again, it cuts it off right there. You know you are getting to a new section, but it takes no time at all to get through these pages. And like, as I was reading it just as straight on prose, just kept going. And the first page, it really kind of, it strikes you as this is something completely different. And it threw me off the first time. The second time I actually took a moment to stop at that section to kind of reset, because I knew it was coming and I wanted to see if that changed my feel of it. But I think the reason it does come to such a halting stop is because we're in the middle of action. Right? We know that he's going to go see Bia, and it's like that same moment we flip to the side, so it doesn't actually have that clear cut, this is something new. And I think that's what my first time around made it a little more, I don't know, disorienting. Because I wanted to keep that point from the other perspective.
Yeah, and I think for me, it's like it was a combination of that and the fact that there's such drastically different voices, which I mean is commendable considering it was one author. It's not like there were two. So very commendable that you could tell the difference, but on the other hand, it was so different, and I enjoyed Ramon so much that I don't know. It was just like It's
also interesting too because Ramon's was more. I don't know. The word I want to use here is sympathetic. Like,
okay.
It was. I don't know. For some reason, maybe it was the fact that he was so obviously young and somewhat naive that there was a certain degree to which, as much as sometimes he'd do stuff, I'm like, really? That's so stupid. Why? But at the same time, he's young and foolish and learning. Amir, I almost got the sense that there was a certain. I'm hesitating to use the word maturity, but a certain manner in which he behaved, and he just, like, that was the way he behaved. He didn't want to change it.
Did you say he was more jaded?
Yes.
So it was a lot more, yeah. That's because that's what I got, is that he was so much more jaded that it was just like, this is what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And being a slave and coming from, right, but once you get the full backstory, and maybe that's also part of it, is we don't get the emotional attachment backstory because we get him having accepted his fate for so long that even when he does think back at home, they're just brief glimpses of, you know, he's just like, I remember this. Nope, have to move on, right? Even when he's like, I had that scene where he's talking about his father, his first father in the snow, and that moment when he could almost smell the mountain air and it brought him back. But it's almost as soon as we get those intimate moments with him, it's like, nope, can't do that. Which, I mean, survival mechanism, right? I mean, he's had a.
But it doesn't make for a sympathetic character.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it would have been different had we been able to start with Amir when he had those strong connections, or if we could have lingered with those a little bit earlier. Because it actually, even in his section, it takes quite a while for that confession. And I mean, I personally kind of had a sense that that was coming based on how the family had treated him. But before that realization that Ramon had no idea that Papa had made him a free boy and emancipated him from slavery. But that took a long time to come out, and because we were in that moment, right, he had just been ordered, he had just been slapped by Ramon and treated like a slave, that it never came out. And I mean, it was always hanging there, but we just never got those intimate moments.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So it made it. I'm still struggling to find the word, but yeah, when you're reading it, it's because you don't get those connections and you get that jaded bluntness almost. It's just kind of like, okay, there's interesting stuff going on, but it's hard for me to connect to it, maybe.
So my question next is, what about part 3? When we go back to Ramon.
So good.
I thought that was really interesting, and just side note, I think it's kind of hilarious that he debated. You know, he was going to the Inquisition to tell on his neighbor, and then in backtracking and not doing the wrong thing, he ended up landing himself working for the Inquisition. Like, if that's not a life lesson, I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because then he had to like watch these people.
Yeah.
Get like all the record everything, take all their stuff, record their stories.
Yeah.
There was a spot. I didn't mark this page, but there was a woman in front of him, and he was saying something like, "Oh, I actually found the page. Go figure." Page 276. It's in the poem Small Stories. One lady shivers through a flimsy cloak that makes an old sack look like a fur coat. And how they're being stripped of everything one item at a time. And I mean, he's already seen like the horrific death. So of course, seeing people freezing and starving isn't nearly as traumatizing as half the things he's witnessed in his childhood, right? When they do the mass town burnings and dragging people through the streets. Even in Amir's trek through the through the desert there a bit, right? When he's with that caravan of Jewish mercenaries, what would they be considered? Yeah, but I mean, just seeing all the squalor there, and then the slave ship, and of course the treatment of the Jews, which that was horrifying. There's a lot that's horrifying.
Yeah.
In such a small amount of text.
But it's also interesting the way that it's addressed, because it's there, but it's not. It's almost like it's not dwelled on, which is really interesting. Like it is there, and it's not necessarily sugar-coated, but it doesn't become the whole text.
And I think that makes sense, because it's not like they're at the start of the Inquisition, and this is all brand new stuff. When we are introduced to Ramon, it's been on for a while, right? Everything that they've been doing, because it all started with the even earlier history of losing Cordoba, or the Muslim Empire losing Cordoba and it becoming Spanish again. So I mean, that's long before Ramon's story, but all the tensions, like all of that's still been building up. So none of it's really surprising as these new rules, these new edicts come about that, if we're going to be a Spanish people, we're going to be a true Spanish people, and this is what you have to do. So, every day there's a new posting, right? Like rule under umbrage, right? Students will not. Right?
Yes.
Only more death.
Yeah.
More death.
Oh God. I think also because it's from a particular perspective instead of being, an omniscient type of narrative. The characters, and people do this all the time, and they do it about everything. Is like, this is happening, but I personally don't want to dwell on it, so I'm not going to tell you about it.
Well, and they had more things to worry about than this is what the Queen's doing right now. I mean, of course, where it mattered to them, right? They're like, okay, are we eating the right food at this time? We have to be out of the house just in case, right? We have to keep these appearances going because life is really hard. But then you also get we have to feed ourselves and we have to keep the business going, right? The scribe that can't get parchment because they're new Christians who aren't as pure as the old Christians, so no one will work with them, right? So all that tension, it does trickle in, but it's not the same. Like, yeah, they haul people out in the streets and do the mass burnings, and they witness it, but that's not nearly as immediate as how are we going to eat?
Yeah, it's like, I witnessed this burning, but this is what I need to deal with right now.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned food, and that reminded me of, in the third section, Ramon makes the comment that he eats pork without a third thought. I thought that was interesting. It wasn't without a second thought. It was without a third thought. So it's like he's still hesitating, but not as
he
much.
always hated it.
Pardon?
He always hated it, and
Yeah.
I mean they ate it.
I thought it was interesting that the specification was made that it was without a third thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, yeah, he would have that, like, oh, God, not this again. But
Yeah.
now I gotta eat it. I would not do well with that. I've never liked pork, so I would be...
Yeah, I would have trouble with that one as well. Unless all the pork was bacon, because that seems to be the only kind of pork that I don't mind.
I don't even...
considering one of their dinners was pig's feet, I don't think you get much say in the diet.
I have watched other people do that, and I can't. No. Oh my God, no. The strangest thing meat-wise I've ever tasted, and I can't say I ate it because I didn't, because I couldn't. But the strangest meat-ish thing that I've ever tasted is beef tongue.
Meat-ish.
Meat-ish.
It's beef
Okay,
tongue.
well, beef tongue. Kevin had beef tongue in Sendai, because that's what it's the specialty. No, he says it's so good.
I can't stand how chewy it is.
Maybe it was just how it was prepared.
No, it was prepared by a really good chef. Apparently, it was really good. We were eating it, but I didn't.
The weirdest meat thing I've ever eaten was fish. Oh, I know what it was. I was going to say it was the entire fish on a stick that was deep fried, but that wasn't it. It was... I ate a lot of fish things in Japan. It was okay.
What about the pufferfish thing?
Oh, no, the pufferfish wasn't weird. It was good. It was like sushi. They made it like had it 4 ways, different sushis, meats, sashimi, raw. That was good. That wasn't weird. It's only weird if you think about the almost dying bit. No, I was going to say it was a fish about this big on a stick that was deep fried, and you just eat the whole thing head first. But that wasn't the weirdest. The weirdest was that the same meal, we had salad, and it had these little crunchy bits in it, and they were about this big, and we're like, oh, crunchy, you know, whatever things. And then someone's like, look closer, those are the eyes. And they were little itty bitty fish things, and you could see them staring at you, and after that I couldn't eat them.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Yeah, that's the weirdest meal-like thing I've ever had. They didn't taste like anything. I'm busy. I'm not eating my dinner fast enough, apparently.
Well, especially with conversation like this.
He just brought me dessert.
Oh, skip dinner, go straight to dessert. Who cares?
I'm going to. It's going to melt. Nothing?
We're adults. That's what we get to do. That is the privilege of having made it past our first 19 years.
Yeah, we get to have dessert first if we want it.
Yep. Ashley, weirdest meat thing you've ever eaten?
See, I may have had weird things, I don't know, but Matt has learned that not telling me what I'm eating is the best, the best measure. Like, what is this? Do I like it? Yes, it's fine. It's beef. It's chicken. And I find out later it's neither. But I don't know. For things I know, I mean, it's okay. Maybe I'm just horribly sheltered. I don't know. Squid, just can't.
I hate
can't
squid.
do it.
I actually like. No, I love calamari.
See, I don't, and I don't like calamari, and I don't like octopus, like the pickled octopus. So
I don't like, and I'm horrified by the baby octopus thing.
So when we were in Japan, a lot of times we were with people who, like, when we went for like tapas type stuff, or if you sit down, you get like a free dish, and sometimes it was octopus. I tried every single squid or octopus thing, and I did not like a single thing.
Huh.
Except, oh, no, wait, I didn't have octopus balls. That's where I drew the.
I love how you said that in all seriousness.
It's been a few years. You say it enough times. They're just the deep fried balls, like the batter and the octopus cut up in it.
Mm.
Only the boys had the octopus balls.
maybe this is just because, I don't know, my travels don't take me to... I should say that. I was going to say my travels don't take me to very exotic places, but I don't know. Maybe I just keep eating like a Brit, so...
Oh no.
What's oh no?
Oh no, it's okay. I thought that someone was going to want to play fetch with me, but he's playing with himself. It's okay.
Well done.
So if you hear banging noises, that's what's going on.
I'm surprised my dog isn't freaking out. Normally he gets like this sixth sense that I'm about to start book club, and so he's like, play with me, which would be fine if he was like a little purse dog, but
He's not.
Yeah.
I have a real dog, and he can plow me to the ground. So
Oh, I like that. You have a real dog.
I do.
That's what
There's
I say
like
to
little
Kevin.
kickable dogs, and then there's dogs. And
I say to him, it's not a real dog if my cat can sit on it.
Yep.
It's my rule of thumb.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah. Anyway.
so I'm just gonna pull out some characters, like I've already done. Ramon, Amir, different sections. Bia! Anyone?
What is with the tooth?
I don't know what is, and she asks for it back.
She does. But they don't mention if it's a recent tooth or a baby tooth or what.
Presumably be a baby tooth, because it's not like she's gonna.
Well, they don't.
This is the 1400s.
Okay, but either way, it's got a heart-shaped hole in it, and then she asks for it back.
I think that's probably just where the natural blood vessel thing would be in the inside.
Oh yeah, it was just conveniently heart-shaped.
Yeah.
But still, it's like you have to bring me an item of your love, so he's gonna give her a knife. And
No, it's the greatest possession you
oh,
have.
right, greatest possession. So your greatest possession is
A tooth that fell out? Really?
yeah, and it wasn't like it was a gold tooth or anything. It was just an old tooth that fell out.
It almost makes me wonder, and I guess this is something you'd have to look into, but did teeth have any extra value back then? Was it to a degree where, like, giving somebody your tooth was almost like giving, because if there could be superstition attached to that, like where giving someone your tooth would be giving them a certain degree of power over you.
But
I don't know if that existed there and then.
Well, on
Google
one
search.
hand, Amir had no idea. I mean, he's not from there, so for him it was like, for us, like, oh, it's really?
Yeah.
On the other hand, in magic, if you have a piece of someone, you control them, or you can trace them, or you can do things to them, so...
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is like, well, then I guess surrendering something like an entire tooth could, in theory...
My search results only brought the gap between teeth symbolism, which doesn't apply here.
No.
Yeah, not much.
I think it just is a reflection of her vanity more than anything, right?
True.
The greatest thing you could have would be a part of me. Which I would prefer the
lock of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just personally, if I...
Yeah.
Definitely the lock of hair, not the tooth.
Yeah, the tooth is weird.
Yeah.
The lock of hair, at least, especially if it's from someone who's vain, because then they have to cut off and leave a weird
Yeah.
thing. It would mean so much more.
But, yeah, I just got a kick out of the fact that she asked for it back.
Well, because he was clearly over her, and that was a problem.
Yeah.
But I love that she was trouble from the start, because that's what the magical book said. There's a page 78. A caution. Look not upon the dimple of her chin. Danger lurks there. Doesn't say that.
It's funny how I kind of like Amir better from Ramon's perspective, just because of how much he like, pulls Ramon's leg or whatever, like with the book and stuff. So
I don't think that was made up though.
no, but even he, like, I can't remember what was happening, but Ramon thinks he's asleep, and then at one point, what did
when he steals the
book, yeah. And then Amir says whatever.
You could at least trade it for a pillow next time.
Yeah, exactly. But it was little things like that where I thought he was like, I just loved him from the perspective, but then when we get to his perspective, I'm like, oh, where's that?
That's a good point. Where is that side of him in his own narrative?
Yeah.
Well, he kind of gets to even more desperate times, because at least while he's with Ramon, he's got some security, right? Mm-hmm. He's got some form of family. From the time we start into Amir's perspective, though, he's beaten to the verge of death. He's in hiding. He's going to get arrested at any time for pulling a knife because they're beating him, and he happens to have the knife on him, and they stab themselves with it. And then he's carted out again. He becomes a slave again. Like, really, there's no happy ending when you get to
poor Amir.
Yeah, when you get to his time to speak for himself, and everything's going to hell.
Yeah, it's almost like it's finally time to speak, and he's going, I'm a little busy, guys.
Yeah. Trying to stay alive. Thanks. That thing that's so difficult right now.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm wondering if it would have been, I don't know, just to rewrite everything that's there, if we could have been given part 1 Amir before life was completely crap.
Yeah.
Then start with Ramon, like Amir, we have,
Ramon.
back to Amir, back to Ramon. Because it is kind of unfortunate that we get 2 sides of Ramon and 1 side of Amir.
Like, the last one is so short, but the first one is so long that it's already longer than Amir's, and then...
Yeah. Well, that happened when I was reading the last section of Ramon. I got to it, and I was thinking I had way more of the book left to go, because it had only just switched back to Ramon, and then before I knew it, it was done, and I was
so frustrated. I was frustrated. I was frustrated because he spent all this time working on these stories about these people, and then lost it putting that kid out. After losing his other life work. Like, he's just constantly losing his life work, so his dad's losing it. And so he's finally keeping these stories to keep something of these people alive, and then loses that.
But he loses that to keep somebody actually alive, and I think...
Yeah, I get it. It's a good sacrifice, but it was just so frustrating. You're like, he keeps losing it.
It made me wonder, because... I mean, it was the title itself is The Apprentice's Masterpiece, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's what he's working on. But I almost wonder if his masterpiece is actually learning to put people first.
Ooh, himself.
Because he actually, that's the thing, like, he painstakingly sews all these little stories into his clothing. But when it comes down to it, he's realized that, that's not worth more than somebody who's on fire being sick.
Yeah.
Well, with the ambiguity of the title, Ramon isn't necessarily the only apprentice. When they took in Amir, he was doing the scribing as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah, with his father's sort of masterpiece that he reads, which gets lost.
And then
I think it's really hard for book lovers to read this, because you're like, no, all the books,
For me, I was just like, your masterpiece, all those stories. Like, for me, I think too, it was like that final thread of those people were also being lost, because that's what he had those stories to keep those people alive, and it's like, and now they're gone, and the book's over.
But they don't easily gone because, I mean, he wrote them down, which means to some degree he must remember some of it.
Yeah, because he talks about a few of them. He does talk about, but
so, I mean, he lost the book and he lost the actual written accounts. But he continues on with his perspectives and with his memories of their stories.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But that loss is also very fitting because it's just massacres. That's all. They do get lost.
Yeah.
They die. They're mass burials. They're, all put on unholy ground for whatever reason, right? Like, it's nothing but unjustified death.
Well, like the one case that Ramon brings up with the woman whose rival in the same, like, basically, I don't remember what it was, but the same business, the rival accused her of eating something at a meal they shared 50 years before.
Mm-hmm.
Like, really? Whoa.
I didn't mark the section, but it's in one of the later sections. I'm not sure if it's the third one from Ramon's perspective or near the end of Amir's. They are forcing even more conversions of the Jewish people. So before we get to the ships, but they're like, this is it. You have to do it. Otherwise, we're just going to kill you all. And the reason that they make them convert to Christianity is because they can't hold them to trials under Christian law. So essentially, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? We have the right to go in and kill you, or you convert, and now we can torture you to death.
Yeah.
I think that was at Mir's section, because when they were talking about the conversions, and he's like, that's not fair because we've got these people who don't speak Spanish, and you're going to post all these edicts and all these rules. How are they going to learn what it takes to be a good Christian?
They don't even speak
and you're going to condemn them. Was that Jewish peoples or was that Muslim peoples? In Amir's section. Oh, I don't remember now. Oh.
I don't remember either.
I think they were saying, like, even the conversos were being gone after.
Oh, yeah, because they weren't as pure, and that was what Ramon's family had to deal with, right? Even though it'd been not 5 generations. No, that was their neighbor.
3 or 4.
That was their landlord. Yeah, but their great-grandfather, right? Great-grandfather did the conversion.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and that wasn't good enough. And I remember it's Ortez is the landlord, right? Senor Ortez?
I think
sounds
so.
right.
Yeah.
The guy upstairs. He was always boasting about being a true Christian, and then when times were getting rough, he's like, no, you have to forge me documents because I can only trace my family back 5 generations, and that's not enough. I can't afford to lose my livelihood, so make me a pure Christian on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you how ridiculous it is. Like,
yeah, 5 generations. Like, even with Ramon, for him, because he was 3rd generation, like, he was born, after a few generations, you're pretty much born into it.
And sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, but even still, like, I mean, there's still a few of the cultural, residual cultural effects, like not eating pork or not wanting to eat it. But still, it's...
I don't know if that one's cultural, just preference. Everyone has stuff that doesn't sit with them.
No, but I think that they didn't... But I think, like, they ate it only as a point. I don't think they would have eaten it. I mean, yeah, it seemed with him mostly preference, but I think it was still... his father had stuff hidden away that they had hung over. But for Ramon, you got the sense that, like, he would talk about it and be like, I don't even know anything about Judaism. I don't understand what's...
Well, that's where it reminded me of that part early on when they're getting, like, really super spy-like because of the backsliding, and that's the first time Ramon hears the term. And he's making the metaphor with the ladder, right? He's like, how can I slide down when I never took the steps up to begin with? Yeah. I was born a Christian. How can I go back from something that I haven't known?
Yeah, exactly. That's not enough.
Any other parts before I start going through my tags?
I think my other issue was when you get to the third part, I was finally getting back into it again, and then it was just over.
Mm-hmm.
And like I know that technically, and the author was very good at giving us historical information, and I could go look stuff up. But I'm like, but I want to know what with these characters. Like it was just like, you're helping me out of the water. You escaped. Amazing.
End of story.
End of story. Like I just remember turning the page and be like, wait, what? What? I don't.
I think that might be smart on her part, though, because it's one of those things of they've worked so hard. Do you really want to be in that moment where they die? Or if it's, okay, now they escaped the country and everything turns out well, then you'd be like, but no, that's... With what's going on, no, there's no happy ending here. So there's that moment where you get that little ray of hope of maybe they make it out, maybe they make it out together, maybe they reconcile and they live. But I mean, remember that the ship was still docked.
Yeah,
they're not out in the ocean.
But for me, it was just felt so abrupt. Was the issue? It was just so suddenly over. Like I didn't need a whole lot more, but it was just so. To me, it just felt so abrupt. Again, because I was, having problems getting back into the book when it changed to the middle perspective. So I'm finally back into it. I get going, and then it's done. So
yeah,
another lost story.
Yes. Fanfic.
Go for it. I'm not touching that one.
No, I'm not touching that one. Do you know how much research I'd have to do?
Oy.
And there's so many things I did want to look up. Like I mean, I've gone through it twice now, and I swore I was going to actually look at the dates because they provide the dates. See how much time has passed. I still haven't actually done that. It feels like Ramon, it was like overnight, and Amir, it was like 10 years.
Yeah.
Somehow it matches up, and the dates are in here. I could look at them right now, but I don't know. For some reason, I just haven't done that.
I think it says between the first section of Ramon and the second section of his, I think it says it's been 4 years or something like that. I feel like it said that right at the beginning of the third section.
Because the dates are over each section, and I could look at this. I actually really could. So I would believe you. But I mean, just looking at how much Amir has been through while he's like being thrown from one situation to another, always starving, always trying to survive. And it seems like, which I mean, it probably makes sense because when you're suffering for so long, the days are blending together, right? And he explains that to the family. He's like, I might be young, but they say a slave lives 10 years for every free man's one. So the fact that it seems like that long, and then again we get to Ramon, and it's like, okay, we just left Bia. We like just had that moment, and now here we are at this slave ship.
Yeah. Oh my god, that would have helped if I had actually hit post.
Not all our links are up.
No. I try to do too many things at once, and sometimes they don't all get done. They're done. They're just not
posted.
Yeah. It's like a couple weeks ago, I went into my blog, and it was like I still hadn't posted the review for the last book, even though I wrote it the week before we had the meeting.
Oh my.
I was like, I thought I scheduled this. Alright.
That is my task for afterwards. I need to actually write a review because I've been very bad with reviews for the past few months.
I've been getting lazy with it. I do my Goodreads one, and I've pretty much just been copy-pasting that onto the blog. Now, I made a comment that this can be a really tough book for book lovers because of all the destroying of books. But there's also something very endearing about the scribe's perspective and the love and power of books through this, which I think makes the travesty of what happens to all these pages so horrifying. But most of my tags here are just those heartwarming moments. Mm-hmm. My first one here on page 17. Still books are the finest treasures of all. You need only feast once with your eyes and your heart, and you'll be full with their wisdom forever. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, when you break down these little sections, the poetry really stands out. But when, like, I don't know, reading it thoroughly as prose, it's really hard to, or really easy to forget that it's still just poetry. Not that it sounds like I'm downplaying poetry. Poetry is like really hard, and I have a lot of admiration for it. But just because it doesn't read like really, I don't know, high-end, stuffy poetry.
I like it.
I got a few of these. Where are my other heartwarming ones? Well, those are sad ones.
I actually have one that's both, well, it's sort of heartwarming and then it's sad.
Oh, I already did that one. Yeah.
The one called Jewels, I think it was actually my favorite one. It was about when it snows in the spring.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because there's a little bit at the end that doesn't make sense until you get into Amir's perspective later on. Because it says, now that spring's here, we get what we've longed for all winter. It's snowing. People stand in the streets with their tongues stuck far out and their noses turned up to the sky. Jewels of pure cold land soft in our mouths. They melt into our memories even before we can pin down their taste. Our faces are wet from the flakes. But before long, I see, Amir's is not dry. And it's funny because Ramon notices that Amir is crying over the snow, but he doesn't know why. And that. I froze. Am I back? Am I back at all?
Oh, I see you now. Yes.
Okay, because I know I froze. Which reminds me, is Caitlin there? She seems freezing.
She seems frozen too.
Oh, and she's gone. Uh-oh. We're still live.
Yeah, because last time she left, the whole thing like blanked out for 20 minutes. And
I thought so. So now I'm wondering. Well, we can carry on with quoting in the meantime and see if she comes back.
Go for it. We'll see what's lost when we replay it.
That's true. It's possible we lose all of it. There's another one, of course, one about books. From the poem called Bookworm, right near the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And this one says, books are treasures, he tells me, but their lives are fragile, more fragile than wings of dried butterflies. Books have three of the deadliest foes on this earth: fire, water, and ignorant men.
Worms are bad too, but they work more slowly.
All right, Caitlin says the computer turned itself off and now won't open the internet, but she's restarting it.
Oh, fun. I'm gonna say that because it says live, we're still okay, but I also don't trust it.
I don't entirely trust it, but it says it hasn't switched to off air.
Yeah, it says live. So maybe it's not entirely connected to Caitlin's account.
Maybe.
I mean, we pressed the agreement, so hopefully it trusts us.
Keep running.
a part of why I really liked this book is that religious tension. Part of my favorite period of history is that Tudor period because of the insanity in those reformations there. And I mean, this is pretty much nested really closely into that. I've never spent much time on the Spanish Inquisition side of things.
That's
but
one that was interesting too, because I know so little to begin with.
But those tensions are still highly there. I mean, it would be the worst possible time to, one of the worst possible times to ever live in. I'd hate to be in that time period. But there's something to be said about humanity and how things get manipulated and how inhumane people can truly become. And the manipulation, the hypocrisy, like it's so rich with it, and that's part of the reason this work really stood out to me, is because it really highlights all that, but not in necessarily a very in-your-face condemning kind of way. Just kind of one of those subtle reminders that actually reminded me about when we were reading The Book Thief. Right, because it was still YA focused and not saying these are all the monstrosities of the Holocaust, but just those reminders of, look, we're forgetting that people are people. And so I appreciate how it was doing that here. And again, because we have Ramon's perspective where he's in the middle as a converso, that he doesn't know how to follow these things. So I've got on page 21 here the poem Confession. They're talking about the new things that the priests are saying, and they remind us why Christians are better. Mama tells us that souls are equal, at least in God's eyes. Then it says it's heresy to argue with priests. Do you doubt why I'm confused?
Yeah.
You can't win. Edict of Faith, page 26. I can sum up the edict in one word. Observe. Neighbor watch neighbor. Friend spy on friend. If one of us errs, we all suffer. What to do then? Tell Mother Church. Don't worry your poor little head about proof. We'll believe you. Heresy is a plague, and it spreads through people's souls like fire through straw. Better to burn here on earth than be lost to the hellfire forever. And there's no part of that I can read without, kind of doing like a mental flip through the pages of history, human history, and thinking about how often that's come up, right?
Okay, hi, we're back from the multiple technical difficulties that are my life. But we are back.
Do we have the link for this video, or is it going to be the same?
I'll post a new link, but you start talking and all.
Okay, all right.
You talk, I'll post.
Sure. I don't know how much of Julianne and I's previous conversation was kept before we were cut off. So just to backtrack a little bit, I guess also to get us back on track, I was talking about how while reading this and just the contents of the Spanish Inquisition, how it reflects quite closely, and I mean in a time period it does very closely relate to the same happenings that were going on throughout most of Europe at this time, what with the rise and fall of different empires, different doctrines. I mean, I'm always more in the British studies side of things, and so I'm looking at this paired with the Reformations during the Tudor era, and how intense that time period can be, and how really there's a no-win circumstance. So I'll just reread a couple of quotes in case they got lost. If they didn't, well, oh well, you just hear them again. Because I think those are the last ones that I remember talking about. So the first one on page 21 in the poem Confession. This is where Ramon is looking at, with his inquisitive mind, just the different versions of things that are being said, how the priests are constantly reminding everyone why the Christians are better and how they practice things in a way that's better than either the Jews or the Muslims or pretty much anyone non-Christian. And Ramon says here, Mama tells me all souls are equal, at least in God's eyes. Then says it's heresy to argue with the priests. Do you doubt I'm confused? Just because that reflects that idea of that hypocrisy of you're told one thing and nothing ever seems to work. And then this one here on 26 in the Edict of Faith, I can sum up the edict in one word: observe. Neighbor watch neighbor, friend spy on friend. If one of us errs, we all suffer. What to do then? Tell Mother Church. Don't worry your poor little head about proof. We'll believe you. Heresy is a plague, and it spreads through people's souls like fire through straw. Better to burn here on earth than to be lost to the hellfire forever. And I was mentioning to Julianne how a lot of this content, this theme, it's so cyclical when you look back on human history. But the way it's portrayed here reminds me a lot of what we were reading in Mark Zuzak's The Book Thief. Mm-hmm. Book Thief being YA content. It wasn't aimed at here are all the horrific things that happened during a time of Holocaust. Just like here, they mention a few things, but that's not what it's drenched in. It's just that reminder of that loss of humanity, and that moment where it starts to get you to question, how much do you take for granted? How much do you believe? How much do you separate yourself from these events that have happened and continue to happen? Almost any period of time you look at somewhere in the world, the same type of justification for genocide happens all the time. And so I think that's kind of what's so sickening about the content of work like this, is how universal it really is. And that's kind of a little down point on humanity, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Humanity sucks.
And in many ways it does, in our little pessimism here. One part here, and I actually quoted this part in my review because I think it's very telling. Like, we have Ramon, who doesn't have very much, but he has more than Amir. And the difference here, Amir is just proud to be, well, Amir. That's the difference, I guess, between him and me. But how can I be proud? Amir may be a slave, but he knows who he is. And again, following up on the themes of that universalism, right, or things that just, it doesn't matter what time period we're talking about, doesn't matter what continent we're talking about, the country. Like, these are all questions that any young person, even grown adults, have all the time, right? Who am I? The world sucks. How do I make my way in it? And so as a piece of YA, and unexpected YA, because often we don't get books of poetry about Spanish Inquisition in a YA setting. And I have a lot of respect for what Melanie Little is doing with this.
Yeah.
Oh, one more. There were a lot of texts that I was reminded of while reading this. But this section here at the end, I'm on page 190, and the poem Why Not? Um, Within the courtyard with what books we could find, even plants of Castile. I knew some Spanish, but not enough. She helped with meanings, though sometimes we simply listened to the music of words. That's when Amir is remembering sitting with his new mama, and I'm pretty sure. Oh no, that's his original mama. Yes, sorry, that was his original mama. When they were both learning. No, that's new mama.
Too many mamas.
There is. Okay, that's why I'm confused, because it starts with with old mama, and then it goes into new mama.
Okay.
I didn't read the whole passage, just the small bits. And just that idea of the music of words, and I thought that was fitting for this piece of poetry, because there is something that flows.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely not everything we've read. Oh, so. Now I'm going to lose my voice now that we have the technology back. Now, like even just the book we read last month, like we enjoyed the comedic relief of the little lady who broke all the rules, but I think we were all kind of in agreement that there was something in the words that was used to write it that was a little more disconnecting, right? We weren't as attached to the events and the characters as we wanted to be. Like, we got the facts, but we weren't absorbed in that musical flow of the words. And I think Melanie Little does that very well. Like she says, the music of the words here. And, of course, the one that jumped into my brain most, Titus Grown, because, like, I just...
Nothing can talk about it.
No, because I would reread entire pages just because I was lost in
the words,
right, and that's it. Totally was. It was musical, right? It was just a natural rhythm and flow, and it just swept over me, and it was brilliant. And so I do love these little odes to literature and the world of reading. Sorry, Julianne?
Okay, I vote that one day we read the second one.
Yes.
That would be so much fun.
Well, if you don't have a pick ever.
That can be the backup.
It's a cheap shot for pick of the year award.
Who knows? Maybe we won't like the second one as much.
I doubt that, though. Just again, even if the content isn't necessarily as amazing, just the poetry of his words. It's just
Just the way everything is written, so amazing.
Oh, the frivolous cake. Oh.
Yes.
Do you have frivolous cake?
Mhm.
And Julianne is frivolous, but I have frivolous nothing. I had frivolous chocolate milk, but it's gone, and it's sad. Doesn't have the same ring to it.
Mine's all melty if it makes you feel better.
Is it ice cream?
No, but it was a frozen... I don't know what to tell you what it is. It's a specific kind of candy bar. But it was a frozen cake. And now the chocolate's all melty. We lost Julianne.
We just can't do this today, can we?
I feel like we're in a maze of technology.
I've lost the internet twice already, and you lost your computer, and oh my. The curse of Curious Endeavourances. It's because we're not officially on the last Saturday of the month, isn't it?
It's
like nope. We just can't do this.
We need to start tracking if that's when we have the big difficulties.
We need more regular viewers. They would know.
I could just go back and check the dates. I remember when we had some big difficulties.
Well, the big one was when we had both texts. We were doing James Bond.
That one wasn't on the last Saturday.
Yes, because it had to be moved so many times.
That one got moved a lot. Maybe that's why. Curse too.
Maybe it's just an annual one, because that's really the only split. And that was about this time last year, because I just come back from my honeymoon.
Yep. Pretty much.
So it's this time, maybe solar flares? Try to justify why.
Honeymoon-related solar flares.
Yeah. That or it's, seasonal gremlins. Which you are living in a fairyland now, so.
I am in a fairyland, but there are more trolls. Gnomes and trolls, less gremlins.
They'd probably be more friendly.
Gremlins are mean.
They are. My excuse for everything is gremlins.
Yep. Gremlins in the computer. I called my car the gremlin because it had problems that nobody could fix or find.
Isn't there an actual car that's gremlin?
A gremlin, yeah.
Yeah.
Mine was not a gremlin, but it acted like
But was?
But it was. It was not a gremlin model. It was a gremlin creature. Jerk face. No checking things. I wonder if I know her computer the last few months has been having shutting down problems as well.
We just can't win. All right,
I'm now looking for things.
Well, I did just post up on Goodreads a link to Hafiz.
I saw your tweet. Yeah.
Just because that was a new name for me. And apparently that was a thing, to use his works as bibliomancy, right? To use it to predict.
That sounded familiar to me. The name didn't, but the just flipping.
But that's been done for several texts.
Yeah.
Anything that's big and epic. So apparently, his is really big because of its links to the Quran and a lot of its influences from that. So people, of course, would use religious texts for bibliomancy like that, of course, just like other epic poems, the Aeneid, basically anything where you thought that the author had some divine link based on their words. I mean, there's that power of words and poetry, and I could think of several authors that would probably try to get some bibliomancy going on for now, just because they do seem to have an answer for anything. Like, my God, Neil Gaiman! Could you just imagine me answer my life's problem? Neil Gaiman.
You pick a book based on what is the problem? I'm going to pick American Gods. Go walk across the country. Awesome. Yeah, her computer crashed and she is restarting it. So Julianne will hopefully be.
She'll come back and something will happen to mine, and we're just gonna.
I know. I'm like, we need to be entertaining people right now. Hi. That's not creepy.
But it's kind of like I tried to maintain the conversation a bit with Julianne when you left to keep it going, but we're so, I think, nearing the end, and I don't want to do awards or final thoughts.
Well, yeah, I don't want to do stuff without her.
So if I'm just killing time, the frivolous cake. A fickle and frivolous cake there was that sailed upon a pointless sea, or any. Oh my goodness! I totally haven't read this in so long.
So for those who haven't seen, this is the frivolous cake from Titus Grown. A mist.
Oh, did you just freeze?
Did I freeze? I didn't freeze for me. I'm not frozen. This would be really awkward if I go back and look and I'm still just talking.
Yay, you're back! Or am I back?
I was babbling. So I wasn't frozen for me, so I'm just like babbling at the screen, and I'm like, this will be
I
really
wasn't frozen
awkward.
for me, and I'm like,
You weren't frozen for me either. Nothing was frozen for me. So like, either I'm gonna be frozen in the final video, or it's just gonna be me babbling about how I don't think I'm frozen. No. So the frivolous cake is a poem from
Julianne's back!
Stone. Yay! By Mervyn Peake. Go watch our first video, and you'll know about the frivolous cake.
I'm going to say this word though. Lugubrious? Is that right?
Lugubrious?
Is that right? I mean,
Sounds like
lugubrious.
the word I know that's a word.
A freckled and frivolous cake there was that sailed upon a pointless sea, or any lugubrious lake there was, in a manner emphatic and free. How jointlessly the frivolous cake sailed by on the waves of the ocean that pointlessly threw fish in the lilac sky. Oh, I need to brush up on my frivolous cake. I reference it so often I can't even get past the third line.
I love that I came back in on the frivolous cake. That was awesome.
Ashley's life revolves around the frivolous cake. If you ever visit, I will make you a frivolous cake.
Ah, yes! Oh, the frivolous cake is mine!
Now you have to visit me.
I will visit you, and it's going to be epic. And expensive. But do it.
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm not going back. It's too expensive.
That's why I'll come to you. Free vacation. Go travel through some Norway. Why not?
Or you can take a ferry to Helsinki.
Cool.
Like in the book that we read last month, that's actually a thing.
Well, the ship takes off from Denmark.
No, you can take one from here.
But that's where the ship actually goes, and then it goes up through Norway.
No, but we get on here, go to Helsinki. It's the party boat.
Oh.
Party boat.
Yeah, because alcohol's so expensive here.
Uh,
Unless you're from Canada, then it's the same. I'm like, this isn't
And it's
expensive.
going to be lost on the notoriously sober one, yeah.
It's okay, everything else will be cheaper too.
Okay.
Party boat. Okay, anyway.
Before
basically
reading the frivolous
rambling.
cake.
Yeah. We're like, we don't want to finish up without her.
Sorry, my whole computer crashed. I think it's time to buy a new one.
See, that's what happened with mine, but it's not even a year old. Or it's just a year old, I guess.
Damn modern technology.
Mine's had it like
Quick, Neil Gaiman, what should we do?
Mine's had a near 3-year run, and I don't think it's actually so much that the computer is gone. It's more that I have too much on it, and it just doesn't have space for everything that I need it to do. So
That'll do it too.
operative word rather than that I need to just buy new. I think that the thing that is really the case is I need to upgrade.
Or just start transferring things to external hard drive.
Yeah.
External hard drive. That's been on my wish list for years.
I'm not that up to speed with things. I'm like, oh, this isn't working on my computer. Honey, I'm putting this on yours.
I can't do that. There's not room on
Yeah, his is worse. He does that to you, I'm sure. There's no more room on this.
Yes. Maybe that's why it's not working.
All right.
Anyway.
Other final thoughts, comments about the Apprentice's masterpiece, impressions, favorite quotes? God, I hate it when. We already talked about Bia.
Yeah. I hate it when a girl gives me her tooth and then asks for it back. That's so rude.
I hate it when everything's rowdo. And I could picture this. I'm like, I swear, I've known dozens of girls like this. It's like,
I'm sure everyone has.
Because either you grew up with them or, now I teach them. And it's like, You still exist? Haven't we gone past this? Haven't we evolved? No.
No, modern technology
Why?
enables people who should have died out to stay alive. There's warning labels and drugs for everything.
This package of peanuts may contain peanuts. Oh, okay. Right.
But just in case, there's an EpiPen in the other package.
So, anything?
We're terrible people.
Highlights, quotes? No? Right. There weren't many awards up there.
And I realized I finished it literally when did I finish it? I finished it the day before yesterday.
Yeah.
I think. And I did not do awards. I can quickly try and scramble my brain, but I didn't do awards.
I couldn't think of any.
I put one up. Let me put my awards page up. Because there's one, you know. And I called it the Power of Books Award. And I did that as kind of layered. Because first off, we have the magical book of Hafez, which Caitlin and I were already kind of talking about how significant it is, not just for Ramon and Amir, but how his book of poetry actually was significant for bibliomancy historically, and I don't know, maybe still to this day. But also, as we've already been talking about, just how important books are, not just to the scribe, but even as we were talking about those individual stories, right? There's so much in the written word, and you can see how important it is, and you can see how devastating it is to have it lost. A scribe without parchment, he says, is just like a voice in a world with no ears. And again, we're readers, we're avid readers. The three of us, we like to consider ourselves to be writers. And so I think it goes to be said that there is so much in that power of the written word, right? And there is a magic to it, like it also says in the book. So basically, I named the award just to encompass all of that, because if nothing else, I mean, there's all the historical connections, there's the inhumanity that is very blatant there. But I think if there's anything that heartwarming that comes out of it, it is that magic of words.
I like it.
Yay! Don't pull everything out of my ass. Yay!
The only thing I could really think of was how many stories were contained within the one story.
Yeah.
But it's along the same lines, right? It's all the books plus the stories of the people, and
which were preserved in the books. And so it's kind of neat that because he was writing in Hafez's books, which, you know, is that preservation of like the entire culture and your future, and how they were using that to intertwine Amir's life, and then as well when Ramon gets the book back, right? He's recording the lives of these other people all in those same pages, and just like when his father was using the parchment, right, and you use the pumice stone to go over it again and again and reuse that page, right? And just think about how many different lives and stories do get imprinted. And yeah. So any other awards possible for author, for anything?
I don't know what to call it, but I feel like there should be a certain award for the fact that all of the poems are strung together so well. Like some sort of, I don't know what I would call it though. Something to commend her for stringing together all those poems actually in a narrative rather than having them seem completely disjointed.
Weaver of Tales.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that would be for, I'm blanking on her. Melanie
Melanie
Little.
Little.
I wanted to say Melody, and I knew that wasn't right.
You can change the word. I just think about the weaving and the...
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
All right. All right. So, and I can't spell it.
When we had our glitch and I kept trying to start videos, I had to keep typing the title over and over. I can't spell Apprentice to save my life, apparently.
It's okay. Well, we were making the 3-month novel challenge. Stupid words. It's just like fingers, keys, not happening.
I was in class the other day and we had to type something up, and everyone was like, "Oh, look at her, the writer. She's typing so quickly." I'm like, yeah, but everything's spelled wrong. If that makes you feel better. It's like I typed fast, but nothing's spelled right. I just go back later and spell check for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're just doing notes, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
Like half the notes I go back to and look, and I'm like, I don't know what this was about. Even if it is spelled correctly, it's just like, no idea.
My handwriting is
Jason
the most
is king of the
dangerous.
trailer park. Don't know why. Yeah, you were there.
I don't know why either. See, even when we were in class together, we went on tangents that made no sense.
And I loved when we were in that environmental class, and our notes were identical, and we were still getting the damn question wrong. What is the trouble with nature? I don't know, because what I have is written as the trouble of nature is, and what you have is what
It's the same.
That's not there. That's not it. I don't know what you want from me.
To this day, we don't know what the trouble with nature is.
Well, we figured it out before the final exam, but it's gone again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. What is the trouble with nature? There's nothing wrong with nature. Nature's awesome.
Trouble with nature is that we don't know there's trouble with nature. No, that's not right. Anyway, so I think we're done with this. We just get back to be finished with this.
Yes.
So, final thoughts and ratings?
I gave it a 3 because I liked it. I didn't love it, but I did like it. I enjoyed it. But I did get lost. It lost me. I got lost, whatever, in the middle. And then I was, but I 3.
I also gave it a 3 because it was, I didn't know what to expect getting into it, so it really could have gone either way. I was impressed that it was all connected, as I mentioned, and hence the award. And yeah, no, I enjoyed it. Same as Caitlin, I didn't love it, but I actually enjoyed it more than I expected to, so I got a 3.
Yeah, I opened saying I was a bit nervous. I'm not a poetry buff at all. I try to save face so that I can teach it to the children and not be a total hypocrite. But it's not typically a preference of mine. But historical fiction is. So I think it definitely won me over with that. And because of the content, because it does overlap with so many other themes that I do think are relevant, and because it's poetry that, again, it's not stuffy. It reads like prose. I think it's very accessible. So as I was reading it, I got really excited about sharing it. And so for that, I mean, there were still those, like we were talking about, the transition points where it kind of stops and gets rigid. I mean, I almost thought, as I was reading the first part 1 section, that it may actually surprise me and end up being a 5. It once we started shifting perspectives and jumping a bit, it went down. But I gave it a 4, just because I do have this sense of I want to share it. And I looked forward to reading it my second time through. So I think for it being different and catching me off guard and being something that I look forward to using, that's why I went up over my stream of 3s, which I seem to be rating things 3s quite a lot.
I've noticed that when I rated it, I was like, oh no, it's just so many
you can't
3s.
help it if things are in the middle.
But because as Goodreads puts it, 3 is, I liked it. I'm like, yeah, I have been liking them. I just haven't been pushed to the giddiness of extreme. I don't know.
It's not Gorman gas.
It's not.
Nothing is.
Nothing else. All right. So is there anything else? Because I have...
We have new novel to talk about. Before we go into new novel, can I just do a few little blurbs? So welcome, new Curious Endeavourances member. I'm waiting for our members to be a little more active and to say hi back, but hopefully extending our, yay, we're glad to have you. Bring your friends. Come join us for conversation. We'd love to bring your questions up into our discussions, and heck, we would even love to see your face and come talk and join us. And also, if I can make a random plug, we're into September now. September, October leads to the wonderful NaNoWriMo month. So things are going to start to get crazy. We're all going to start to get a little bit more antsy. And I know the 3 of us are going to be involved, but just as a come, if you've ever wanted to write anything, if you even had the slightest notion that one day you'd like to tell a story, check out nanowrimo.org. There's a lot of great resources there. We plug it all the time. We're going to be participating, so by all means, right along with us. I'm doing the blurb now because that gives you a couple months to get your stuff in gear, talk yourself out of it, talk yourself back into it, and get ready for November. And we're going to have more to talk about NaNoWriMo as we get closer to, but just mark it on your calendars because it's coming, it sneaks up on you, and it's intense, and it's probably the best thing I've ever done for my writing, joining that community and being involved. So that's my little promotion. No, I'm not paid by NaNoWriMo, but sometimes I think I should be for how much I support. But it's a great, wonderful community, and most of the writing supports that I end up tweeting actually come from the other NaNoWriMo participants and the resources that they put together. So yeah, I steal their stuff, which they've stolen from somewhere else. Yep, so that's my writing blurb. Next month is Caitlin's pick.
Yes. My pick is Paper Towns by John Green, the author of The Fault in Our Stars, if you've read it or seen the movie. If you haven't, you should definitely read it. I haven't seen the movie yet because it's hard to find, English here. But you should definitely read it. I highly recommend it, and that's why I picked this book, because I wanted to read more of his things. So it's called Paper Towns. And here's what it's about. Who is the real Margot? Quentin Jacobson has spent a lifetime loving the magnificently adventurous Margot Ross Spiegelman from afar. So when she cracks open a window and climbs into his life, dressed like a ninja and summoning him for an ingenious campaign of revenge, he follows. After their all-nighter ends and a new day breaks, Q arrives at school to discover that Margot, always an enigma, has now become a mystery. But Q soon learns that there are clues, and they're for him. Urged down a disconnected path, the closer he gets, the less Q sees the girl he thought he knew. That is this month's pick. I guess, is everyone okay with the 3-week deadline?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Should be. that's a different book.
It's just it's,
things in the back. 305 pages.
yeah,
Not
it's
bad.
it's
Large print, 305 pages, done.
And-
I'm breaking things.
and my my experience with his writing is that it's really easy to get into, and just stay up until 4 in the morning crying and reading.
Oh, joy.
So I have to
I don't know if this
I
one
cry
will,
during commercials. Why would you do this to me?
I don't know if this one will make you cry.
I cry during commercials. This has been proven.
Yeah, but I had reasons for the other one making me cry. I had personal reasons. So September 27th, I'm just staring at the page in the calendar, and for some reason I couldn't remember what month it is.
21 days.
Yes, you have 3 weeks to read it. Start now. 100 pages a week. You can do it. I have faith in you. And if you forget, I will post links below to go to our Goodreads. It'll tell you what we're reading, what we've read, when we're reading, when we're meeting, who we are, all that fun stuff. Join, comment, ask questions.
Be curious. We'll put any of your questions. We'll answer them if we can, or bring them up for discussion on the video. And again, if you would actually like to be involved in this discussion, so you don't just keep hearing us three go round and around and around and giggle about nothing, if you'd like to be the person that says, stop with the frivolous cake and stay on with the book, just say hi. Right? We're the mods, so it's not like you've got a lot of hoops to jump through. Come, join, make our videos more interesting.
Oh, we're plenty interesting.
Oh.
Agreed.
Actually,
I can say the third line of the frivolous cake.
wait.
Lugubrious.
Lugubrious.
Lugubrious. I don't even have the word in front of me, and I'm saying it. Lugubrious. This is the problem. I'm trying to read and speak at the same time. That's what I can't do. I've got to be off book. This is the lesson here.
I can't read and speak at the same time. Just reading the
Look,
back
I
of
can
that
even
novel.
say Ramon Benaviste because the word's not in front of me. What? What is wrong with me? Why can't I read?
You are in the wrong club.
I'm just a misfit.
Thanks. That's going to be in my head all night.
I'm not just a nitwit.
We don't have rights to anything.
Nope.
Okay, so that's that. Check us out. See you in 3 weeks. Enjoy. Read all the things.
Be curious.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Hello.